We are live in week 9 of the NFL season. It's the official halfway point now with 18 weeks. Playoff race is then the playoff pictures are starting to heat up. We'll talk about one of these teams, but if you said at the beginning of the year at week 9, the Arizona Cardinals would be in first place in the NFC West, I think that would be one of the more surprising things. Another one of our games we're going to talk about, Ravens and Broncos, both of those teams sitting with the same 5-3 record as well. And we got a few other teams that are kind of looking feisty, kind of looking scrappy. And then some teams where I've kind of called it a few different times this year, but like a fork in the road game. We'll talk about the Cowboys, a bit of a desperation game against the Falcons this week. But we got some good ones to get into. Last week was pretty crazy in the NFL with National Tight End Day and all the tight ends dominating seemingly and scoring touchdown after touchdown. But playoff races, as we said, Kev, starting to heat up. After this week, we'll be halfway done the regular season. Welcome back, and how are we?
Great. Yeah, I think there's a lot of great games this weekend. It should be a lot of fun to go through them here.
Yeah, average week from us last week, nothing crazy. I went 9-9, 2-3 straight up, 2-3 ATS, 3-2 on my over/under, 1-0 on my lock of the week, which was my 10-point teaser. Eagles plus 12.5, they won outright. Raiders plus 20, they lost by 7, I believe it was, and then Lions -1, and they won 52-14. So that one wasn't really much of a sweat at all. And then 1-0 on my dog, doubled down on the Raiders, took them at plus 10. 0-1 on my touchdown pick of A.J. Brown. We have yet to match up with that yet. I hit it. You hit it the first week. I hit it the second week. And you hit it the third week. We've yet to match up, so hopefully this is the week. You went 10-8 last week, 4-1 straight up, 3-2 on your against the spread picks, 1-4 on the over/under. 0-1 on your lock was the Ravens. We'll talk about them first. 1-0 on your dog with the Eagles with the outright win against the Bengals, and then 1-0 on your touchdown pick of Mark Andrews. But as always, we'll preview the best 5 games of the week and then wrap it up with our dog of the week and our lock of the week, as well as our touchdown score now. As we said, looking to parlay those 2 touchdowns into a big winner for the people on Sunday afternoon. But we will start in the 1 o'clock window on CBS down in Baltimore. I alluded to this at the beginning, but Broncos sitting there at 5-3. I think coming into the year, there was some like buzz and some hype that, all right, if all things shake out right, maybe 9-8, 10-7, they could sneak in as a wild cards team. They're sitting here at 5-3 at kind of the midway point of the season. Ravens at 5-3 as well, with a couple of head-scratching losses and a couple of dominant wins. 1 o'clock kick on CBS. Ravens a 9.5-point favorite here at home. Over/under is 44.5.
Yeah, I'm going Ravens winning 27-21. So Broncos do cover the 9.5, and the over at 44.5 hits. You kind of touched on it a little bit. It's kind of crazy that both of these teams have the same record. When you talk about the top teams in the AFC, the Ravens are always at the top, and the Broncos are kind of just hanging down there somewhere in like the 4-6 range. Don't hear about them too much like the other teams at the top, Ravens, Chiefs specifically. And that's kind of because the Ravens are a very good team. And like you said as well, they have some head-scratching losses, one of them being last week to the Browns when they definitely should have won. And the Broncos last week easily handled the Panthers like most teams are this year. The Ravens have games like last week from time to time where they just blow games or just come out looking flat. I don't think it's going to happen 2 weeks in a row here. Lamar was actually generally pretty good last week, throwing for 289 yards and 2 touchdowns. The bigger concern for them is their defense, as they just don't look very good against the pass this year. But in my opinion, I think it's a good thing they're playing Bo Nix this week. Nix, he's actually been pretty solid this year, but I'm just still not completely sold, especially when it comes to him throwing the ball. I don't think he is going to be able to do as much as Lamar and be able to match Lamar and Derrick Henry's production, even with the defense he has, one of the top units in the league. With that being said, I will take the Ravens to get back to winning football games here.
Yeah, I like the Ravens to win this one as well and bounce back kind of after that head-scratching loss. I mean, if you think about it, Kyle Hamilton bobbled that interception at the end of the game from Jameis, 3-4 different times. He brings that in. The game's over right there on the spot. Jameis then comes up with a nice long passing touchdown to win the game in pretty wild fashion. But I think the main kind of thing in this, like, all right, if the Ravens lose this game to the Broncos aren't going to win the AFC West, but the Broncos are certainly in good position to continue fighting for a wild card spot. The Chargers are a team that's still competing as well. The Ravens, though, the division becomes a question. I don't think the Bengals anymore, but I think the Steelers certainly in how they've looked to start the season, and now 2-0 with Russell Wilson starting. So the Ravens probably don't have the coast to the division title that they were thinking that they might have had, especially if they lose this one. It's going to get a little bit more difficult. The Ravens continue to struggle, though, as big favorites. In the last 4 years, Lamar Jackson is only 2-11-1 against the spread as a favorite of 7 or more points. Obviously, they fit into that spot now, and they've lost two of those games outright this season, losing to the Browns last week and the Raiders in week 2. So for those reasons, I'm going to take the Broncos here plus 9.5 to cover this game, but still take the Ravens to win it outright. Still think there's a pretty big talent gap, and push comes to shove, you're not going to get me to take Bo Nix, especially at this stage of his career, over Lamar Jackson. I don't see the Ravens, as you said, too, losing outright twice in a row is nearly a double-digit favorite back-to-back weeks. So I'll go Ravens 24, Broncos 17, Broncos plus 9.5 in the under 44.5, but one of the spots of the week there with the betting trends to back the Broncos. All right, second game of the week, the fork in the road game, I think, for the Cowboys season. They're sitting here at 3-4, traveling to Atlanta, who is 5-3. 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox. Falcons a 2.5-point favorite, over under 49.5. Cowboys fall to 3-5 here. You got the Eagles, who are now 5-2, potentially going to 6-2 after playing the Jaguars, are 7.5-point favorite if you think they're going to win that game. And then the Commanders have the Giants this week. Those two teams are going to continue to build a gap here on the Cowboys from coming back to not only win the division, but maybe even be a wild card team. So a huge spot here for the Cowboys. Do you think that they kind of play that desperation angle, Kevin, get the win in Atlanta?
I don't. I have the Falcons winning a close one, 24-23. So the Cowboys do end up covering the 2.5 they're getting, and the under 49.5 hidden. I think this could potentially be the nail in the coffin on the Cowboys season. I have been a backer of the Falcons all season. I'll do it again this week. Kirk Cousins is coming off probably his best game as a Falcon, where he completed 79% of his throws for 276 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 picks. And then the Cowboys are just coming off a loss to the Niners, in which the final score of 30-24 makes it look better than it actually was. They were down 27-10 at one point. And all of Dallas's losses this season have been non-competitive games, which is just never good in the NFL. The Saints smoked them. The Ravens held a massive lead before garbage time points and yards made that game look closer as well. To then the Lions blow them out, and then now last week the Niners had a massive lead before Dak went in there and garbage time got some good throws for his highlight reel. And then my guess would be that Parsons is back this week, but I think the Cowboys are a dead team walk-in, and it continues to unravel in Atlanta as Kirk has another solid day.
I love the Falcons in this spot. I agree with what you were saying, Kev, that the Cowboys seem broken and kind of like a dead team walking. It kind of makes me double think or get second guess myself in terms of, are the Cowboys going to come out here playing absolutely desperate in kind of like a must-win game, I would say, for their season. I mean, tempers are flaring, though. The running game's still non-existent, and the offense really as a whole has been super non-existent outside of CeeDee Lamb. They're really struggling as a group. And as you said, Dak has kind of been putting on some stats towards the end of these games, but throughout the first 3 quarters or so, they've really struggled to move the ball consistently. I think the Falcons have the opportunity to bury Dallas here and pretty much eliminate any hope they have at winning the NFC East, as we talked about with the Eagles playing the Jags this week and the Commanders playing the Giants. If both of those teams take care of business in that one, it's going to be a very steep hole to climb out of, especially if they drop this game. You might get a desperate Cowboys team, as I said, in this spot, but I just flat out don't think they're a good football team. Last year, I think, was kind of their best chance to actually make a run to the NFC title game, to the Super Bowl, and they pissed that away with that Packers game, and it was awesome to see. I think Mike McCarthy is kind of a dead man walking as well in this scenario. If this is an ugly game, I know Jerry doesn't like to fire coaches during the season, but if this is an ugly game, I think based on the comments that Jerry Jones has been making over the past couple of weeks and in public to the media as well, that could be potentially the end of Mike McCarthy's tenure in Dallas. So something to watch out for, but I do think the Falcons put it on them at home in this one. Give me Falcons 31, Cowboys 21. Falcons minus 2.5 over 49.5, but it's a game that's not really even that close. We're going to see some classic Dak and CD kind of garbage time points towards the end. All right, the game I think I'm most intrigued about this week, and it's not a super big headliner game, but two teams that you're not your biggest brands of kind of recent success or models of recent success in the NFL, but two teams I think with young quarterbacks that are looking kind of upstartish. You got the Bears at 4-3 at the Cardinals 4-4. 4:05 kick on CBS. Cardinals a 1-point favorite here at home. Over under is 44.5. We saw the crazy ending in the Bears Commanders game last week. Do you think they can bounce back from it, Kev?
Yeah, I am going Cardinals 24, Bears 21. So the Cardinals -1 over 44.5. This one was really tough. I struggled with this one a lot. I don't know if the Bears are going to be able to recover from that devastating last second loss last week. So I'm going with the Cardinals winning a close one here. Both teams have played a lot of close games, with the Bears relying on their second-ranked defense, while the Cardinals are relying on their eighth-ranked offense. I am going with the Cardinals because the Bears have yet to prove that they can be a good team. The Bears have played the second easiest schedule so far, while the Cardinals have played the hardest in the league. And the Bears are also 0-3 on the road this year. I think it's going to be hard for the Bears to rebound after last week. Seems like there's more to it than just like them losing on a Hail Mary. The coach is coming under fire. Players are speaking out a little bit against him this week. So I'll take Kyler, who has been playing good, to win at home.
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, one of the games I'm looking forward to the most this week, because it's I think to not keep using this fork in the road analogy, but it's like the Cardinals are surging, and then how do the Bears come back after that loss last week in that fashion? Especially with the Stevenson situation, I'm really intrigued to see how the Bears come out and look this week. That's a heartbreaking type game. How did the coaches handle that situation with not only Stevenson in the locker room, but the entire team? I think that'll say a lot about Matt Eberflus and kind of the direction that this Bear season could potentially go, because that's the type of loss that really is a kick in the you-know-what that can fold a season, can really derail a season. And a Cardinals team that's won 2 in a row, that's been playing some pretty good football, are they able to get this one done at home and kick the Bears in the nuts a little bit more? I think so. After the loss last week in Washington, the Bears are now 0-3 on the road this season and 2-10 over their last 12 road games in total. Under Matt Eberflus, they just have not been able to win games on the road. They've proven this time and time again. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals here, who are surging a bit right now. And believe it or not, as we said at the beginning of the show, in first place in the NFC West. I think last week's loss is a very tough one to overcome, to come back from, especially traveling. The Bears need to get back home to get that kind of taste out of their mouth. But I'm going to go with the Cardinals here at home in this one, 24-20. So I'll go Cardinals -1, under 44.5. And some more major questions are going to come out of Chicago, I think, next week after another disappointing loss. All right, we go to – I said I was looking forward to that game the most, but this is probably on paper the game of the weekend. The Lions at 6-1 at the 6-2 Green Bay Packers for a 4:25 kick on Fox. Jordan Love did not practice today, according to the media, during their availability at least. So that's something to monitor after he left the game last week. But 4:25 kick on Fox. Lions a 4.5-point favorite coming off that drubbing of the Titans. Over under is 47.5.
Yeah, this is America's game of the week, and I just think you have to take the Lions. They're just playing at a different level of ball right now. The Packers have been really impressive this year, especially considering Jordan Love's injuries. And Jordan Love apparently avoided a major injury, but as you just noted, he didn't practice this week. I do think regardless of who it is under center, Love or Malik Willis, I'm taking the Lions. Jared Goff is playing at an MVP level, and the entire Lions team is just feeding off of it. The offense is leading the league in points and is regularly blowing teams out. Matt LaFleur has done an awesome job coaching this year. I think he deserves a lot of credit, and I think he can have his team competitive in this game, but I'm just sticking with the Lions. I am also following one of your favorite stats. Dan Campbell is now 43-25-1 against the spread in his career as the Lions head coach, covering over 63% of his games. So I'll take Lions 30, Packers 24, Lions -4.5 over 47.5.
Yeah, it's a spot where it's like, all right, Lions at the Packers. That's definitely going to be a tough one. But I can't be a coward and go against the Lions now, even on the road in Green Bay. I agree with you, regardless of Love or Willis playing. It's not really going to sway my decision. I'm still going to go with the Lions, even with the one loss that they have earlier in the season to the Bucks. I think they look far and away the best team in the NFL, even better than the Chiefs. Passing, rushing, special teams, defense, they do it all in Detroit. They kick your ass pretty much every damn week. This a winning football team and a winning locker room in Detroit that honestly I think everybody in the league should be afraid of. And if you said that 5-10 years ago, people would sit there and laugh at you. But the Lions are legit. They are a real deal squad, a real deal Super Bowl contender. They've now scored 40 or more in 3 different games this year, an average margin of victory of 14.3 points per game. And are also covering against the spread by an average of 9.4 points per game. Just have been on an unreal tear to start off the year. The best way to beat them, I think, is to keep their offense obviously off the field and minimize their possessions, which I think the Packers can do. That they showed that they were able to do that when Jordan Love was out, kind of a real run-heavy formula with Josh Jacobs. But I just can't pick against them and the momentum they have right now. The confidence that you can just kind of feel it through the screen when you watch the Detroit Lions play football. So I'm going to give them a touchdown win here at Lambeau Field. I'll go Lions 31, Packers 24, Lions minus 4.5 and over 47.5. All right. Final game of the week. We stay in the 4:25 window. The 3-4 Rams travel to the 4-4 Seahawks. 4:25 game on Fox. Seahawks 1 point favorite. Over under is 48.5.
Yeah, I'm going Rams 27, Seahawks 23, Rams plus the one, over 48.5. I like the Rams. More specifically, I like the Rams offense. Sean McVay and Stafford now have all their weapons healthy. Then the Seahawks have lost 4 of their last 5 and were just blown out by the Bills. Kyron Williams continues to give the Rams offense another element outside of Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. He just finds his way into the end zone every week and takes some pressure off of Stafford, especially down in the red zone. I have not been high on the Seahawks all year, and you never know which Geno Smith is going to show up. I'll take my chances with the Rams as they make the NFC West race very interesting before this game. Or before this week, the Cardinals, Niners, and Seahawks all are sitting at 4-4, and the Rams right behind them. The Rams could be in first place at the end of the week, depending on how the teams in front of them do. So I'm going Rams here.
I hope this is the last time we have the Seahawks on the show. I kind of just want to ban them from ever making them. I'm annoyed talking about them. I never am on the right side with the Seahawks. Last week, I took them to upset the Bills. As you talked about, they got rolled. The week before, I had them beating the Falcons, and they go down there and roll the Falcons by 20 plus in Atlanta. I just can't get a good feeling on this team. Obviously, missing DK last week was a big element to, I think, their demise against the Bills. But it is hard to uh, beat a team, I think, like the Rams with all the weapons that they have when they're healthy. The Rams defense might not be great, but I'll put up the 4 players of Matt Stafford, Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua, just about anyone, if you're going to go out there and say, all right, basically, you're going to have to win this game 38-35 in a shootout. I'm going to take those 4 guys with Sean McVay dialing up the plays as well. That's a really special offensive group. And the NFC West race is looking like you were saying, going to be a very tight finish. The Seahawks, though, are getting the least love from Vegas right now. They're plus 500 to win the division. That's last amongst the 4 teams. I tend to agree with them. I think that we're probably going to look back and they'll be like a 7-10 squad by season's end. The Geno Smith experiment can really only last for so long. He's just such a middle of the road kind of quarterback, and he's had a good resurgence here in Seattle, becoming a kind of solid starter. But I don't see anywhere that they're better than 9-8 to 8-9 with him under center. I think they got to go out there and upgrade that quarterback spot to be a long-term contender. But to get back to the NFC West picture, I do think the Rams could be worth a look at the division right now at plus 390. The 49ers just haven't been able to be healthy all year. The Cardinals, they're up and down. They could be looking really good, but then they could have some blowout performances like they did a couple weeks ago against Green Bay. With Stafford, Williams, Kupp, and Nacua all healthy, as I said, that's one of the most, if not, you could argue, the most dangerous offense potentially in the NFC. That's a very good group with a very good play caller in McVay. They're going to be a tough team to stop. But I think that they kind of keep getting the mojo going, keep getting this group back on their feet, and they go to Seattle and win. I'm going to go 27-24 Rams, so Rams +1 and over 48.5. All right, final three picks, dog of the day, lock of the week, and the touchdown parlay of the week. Start off with the dog of the day. Hit mine last week against the spread. Wasn't an outright winner, but my dog of the day for this week, I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns +2 at home against the Chargers. I think they win this game outright. I'm buying into the Jameis hype, the Jameis effect. When you look at the Browns roster, I know that they've had a pretty decent chunk of injuries this year, but the overall roster wasn't really the question. It was really kind of the quarterback play and Deshaun Watson. Last year, remember, the Browns were a playoff team. Joe Flacco led a pretty similar roster to the playoffs. It's not the exact same roster as last year, but Jameis Winston has definitely pumped some life and some juice back into this Browns team. I'm not saying that they're going to go on a playoff run, but I think this is definitely a winnable game at the Chargers, the old West Coast to East type of trip as well. So Chargers are a solid squad, probably going to finish 9-8. I'd say maybe 10-7. But I definitely think the Browns have enough talent, enough juice on that team to pick them off at home in this one. So I'm going to go Browns +2 for my dog this week.
Yeah, my dog, I'm going Patriots +3.5 or +146 on the money line versus the Titans. Two pretty bad teams here, but the Titans are -13 on turnovers. Never a recipe for success. And I think whoever plays Brissett or May can win a close, low-scoring game.
All right, lock of the week. I'm going to try a different element this week. Last week, I went with the three-team 10-point teaser. This week, I'm going to go with two favorites on the money line. I'm going to go with the Eagles against the Jags and the Falcons against the Cowboys. Parlayed together, that is +120. We talked about how I think the Cowboys are kind of a dead team walking. I think the Falcons get it done there. And the Eagles, I think, have their juice and have their momentum back. They got the mojo, the swagger, whatever you want to call it. And they're looking like the Eagles kind of 2022 again. Dominant on the offensive side of the ball last week. The defense has been playing really well over the last 3 weeks as well. And now you get a struggling Jaguar squad coming to Philadelphia. I think it's a recipe for another win for the Eagles. So Eagles, Falcons, money line as my lock of the week, parlayed together at +120.
Yeah, my lock of the week, I am going Eagles, Jags over 23.5 first half points. The Eagles have been playing well as of late, and I think the next step in their progression this season is scoring early. We all know that they haven't scored in the first quarter this year. I think it happens here against the Jags team that is already averaging 10 first half points a game themselves. I think they get their 10, and the Eagles get 2 touchdowns. That gives you over your 23.5.
All right, the Eagles doing a little first half action. All right, touchdown picks of the week. I'm going to go with Jamar Chase, -135 against the Raiders. He's had a touchdown in back-to-back games. Don't really need to say much and convince you why on Jamar Chase and gets a Raiders defense that isn't an elite unit by any stretch. I think the defense of the secondary can definitely be picked on. So give me Jamar Chase there, -135 against the Raiders.
Yeah, for my leg of the TD parlay, I'm going Raheem Mostert +140. Last week I picked Mark Andrews because he had 2 touchdowns the week prior. He scored this past week. This past week, Mostert scored twice. I think he does it again this week, kind of following that trend here.
All right, so you parlay those together. Jamar Chase -135, Raheem Mostert +140. That is a +317 parlay. That'll do it for week 9 here at Beef Up Front covering the NFL. We'll be back next week. Pretty crazy already week 10. And before you know it, we'll have the Thanksgiving preview games as well. But as always, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and we'll talk next week.